Today's episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. Today we continue our series previewing local elections across the Finger Lakes by catching up with one of the candidates running for Seneca Falls Town Supervisor. Mike Ferrara joins me in studio. Mike, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Josh, for having me back.
So running for re-election, what's your why?
My why is because I have a lot of things in the pipeline. We have so much going on, and I'd like to see all that go and come through. We're close, so I know in the next 4 years, everything that we initiated in the previous 4 years will be completed, and I want to make sure that that happens. That's my biggest motivation.
Biggest issues you're hearing from voters, what are differ from last time around, or are they about the same as this time around?
About the same, always it's always the landfills, always the big elephant in the room. So, you're on one side or you're on the other side. My goal the last 4 years was to try to remove the big elephant from the room as long as I could and work on the other issues that need to be attended to. And it's not about the landfill. It's about Seneca Falls, and it's about what we need to do other than the landfill. So, and I was pretty successful until the last 2 months. So.
Yeah. When you think about the next 4 years, and you look back at the last 4 years, biggest learning experience, biggest lesson you'd take away from that and apply to the next?
It's a big learning curve, It's not like you can walk in on the first day. When I went to work on January 2nd in 2020, I walked into an office that literally there wasn't a paperclip or a pen in the office. There was a computer on my desk that I had no idea how to log into. And there's all this stuff going on. And so if I lose the election, which is not going to happen, but if I do, I'll never let that happen again. I'll make sure if my opponent wins, I'll be there to help him if he wants my help. I will never leave that person high and dry.
You mentioned the landfill issue. Obviously, it's the one it's the issue that kind of sucks the air out of all of the other issues that the town has to deal with that are imminent issues. When you think about the DEC permitting process and how that could go yes or no, not knowing which direction it's going to go, how do you plan on approaching that depending on which way it goes?
Well, so you're 100% right. I mean, I keep saying over and over again, it's going to come down to two things. If the DEC gives them a permit, it is what it is, okay? And there could be a new board elected, and they could pass another local law. Let's call it Local Law 1 of 2024, and we're going to close the landfill in 2025. And we know how that worked out in Local Law 3 of 2016, okay? So if that happens, the landfill is a legitimate business, and they're going to fight it in courts, and it's going to go on and on and on, like Local Law 3 has gone on for 8 years. And all the same time, the landfill is operated, and nothing's going to be different, okay? So when I say literally the DEC will make the decision or the courts will make the decision, that's the way it is. If people are going to vote for my opponent because they think on his first day in the office he's going to close the landfill, that's completely unrealistic and not true. So again, it is what it is, and I prefer to work with the landfill to make it as safe as possible. And I negotiated with a team of a new host agreement, and my position was that we're in a much better situation to negotiate now before they had a permit. So if the DEC gives them a permit, and now we're going to go and negotiate, what leverage does the town have if they have their permit in hand? Okay? There's no law that says they have to provide you with a host agreement. They don't have to do that if they don't want to. But if they had the permit in hand, okay, here's a couple $1 million and it is what it is. So that was the whole motivation behind that.
Yeah. When you look at issues that aren't the landfill, infrastructure probably comes to mind as one that you're hearing about quite a bit, especially after this past summer's street flooding, residential flooding, that sort of thing. A lot of communities dealt with that. How do you think the town needs to position itself on that front over the next 4 years? Obviously, it's going to take more than 4 years to solve some of those issues.
So, Josh, I've been doing nothing but working on infrastructure in 4 years. Okay, that consumes 90% of my time. I happen to watch the podcast from Mr. Churchill, and he wanted everybody to believe that he's the lone Democrat and protecting the wasteful spending of the Republicans. He forgot to mention that the Democrats were in control the first 2 years of my term. 20 and 21, they had a 3-2 majority, okay? And I've tried to bring drainage solutions, and they never wanted to support it. And the biggest one was Barrett Street Culvert, okay? Barrett Street Culvert basically drains the south end of Seneca Falls. All the water that comes from 414 near the airport, down 414, into Ovid Street and so forth, eventually ends up in what's called Benton Creek. And Benton Creek flows into the canal through the culvert. The culvert's compromised, okay? It's not big enough. It's 100 years old, and it's due to decay and everything in there. It can't take the water. So we are, 2 years ago when the Republicans took control of the board, we dedicated $1 million for drainage. And now currently a pump station is designed for Barrett Street Culvert. Relining Barrett Street Culvert to make it wide open is in play. We have design work being done on Johnson Street to help on the north end. So we are doing these things. I mean, these things are happening. It's very frustrating when I hear my opponent and the other Democrats running, we want to work on drainage, we want to work on infrastructure. We're doing these things. We've been doing these things for the last 2 years. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah. When it comes to that kind of issue, is it a matter of politics or is it a matter of results just tend to come slow because they're bigger projects that take time to come to fruition?
And that's the frustrating part about being in a municipality versus a private sector. It takes time. You got to go through, grant writing, grant receiving. You got to go through bonding. You have to go through agencies like the DEC, the Canal Corporation, the EPA. It just takes time. But they're all in play right now, okay? They are all in play. And I've secured $14 million in funds for infrastructure in the last 4 years, $14 million. And it just takes time. One of our biggest projects that we have on that's going to break ground is the Kingdom Road pump station, okay, which is replacing a pump station on 5 and 20, but it's going to come across the canal, and then it's going to go down alongside the canal. So just those two areas, you got the Canal Corp, they got to get permits from, and New York State Gas and Electric, who owns the right-of-way along the canal. It's been 3 years trying to secure those things, but it's happened, okay? So if people are going to tell the voters that I'm going to start first day and I'm going to change everything, it's not going to happen. But we're there. We're there.
Economic development. Obviously, the town went through the DRI process, has been successful in the DRI process, but at least to some residents, perhaps not enough visible change to feel like progress has really been made. Working on the DRI, what was that experience like for you? And then looking forward, when somebody says to you, Mike, we need more economic development, what's your response to that?
My response is we have 3 public DRI projects that are all in play. We got the community center, which is going out to bid next week. We got the visitor center, which is going out the first of the year. And then the biggest part is a $3.5 million north side canal where all the wires and telephone poles are going to be removed and buried underground. But again, you're going through New York State Gas and Electric. It's not easy, okay? But all those are in play. Economic development, Mike Ferrara secured a micro enterprise grant for $240,000. And we are starting 8 new businesses. 8 new businesses in the DRI footprint, which is Fall Street, Cayuga Street, State Street, Sackett Street, Bridge Street. 8 new businesses. So again, when my opponents say we need to fill the stores downtown, we are doing that, okay? We have 8 new businesses opening up. And if we can close the books on the 8 new businesses starting up by February, we can apply for another micro enterprise grant, which we'll get, and we'll have more funds. So I'm doing all that. Economic development is small businesses. And as much as we can help small business owners either establish or reestablish their business or start new ones, we're not going to have a major manufacturer come into Seneca Falls. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Housing, another kind of broad issue. You've got the senior housing availability issue. You've got rent prices. You've got lack of single family developments. You know, Seneca Falls, I think it's been 25 or so years since the last single family development went up. When you think about some of those issues, what's something you'd like to see the town board, the town government do to perhaps make it a little easier to make some headway on those issues?
Again, another issue that I've been working on steadily. So the town owns 22 acres behind kids' territory. And I have a developer in place, okay? I have Menzo Case's dream of Bailey Park. So Menzo and I have been working, we were working for the better part of the last year, developing this space. So part of it's going to be Bailey Park, and there's going to be 15 to 18 new houses there. And then the other half is from the developer. There's going to be apartments and duplexes on that part of the property. I've applied for a grant to bring water and sewer to the project. So it's going to cost about $1.5 million to bring water and sewer from Barrett Street down Cortlandt Avenue to this development, okay? Once I get that grant, that project's going to happen, okay? So working on that, working on developers at the college. From where I sit, the college is the best place to start new development. I've been working with the president and the board to sanction off some of their property for development. It's flat already. There's water and sewer there already. My whole idea about housing is we have a large population of baby boomers, myself included. I want to move out of my house. I don't want to mow my lawn. I don't want to shovel snow anymore. I want to go into a nice high-end condo that I can afford, and there's many people like that can do that. That makes my house available on the market for young people to buy a nice house, and it's just cyclical, okay? You create better opportunities for the baby boomers. It opens up houses, and we can go from there. So we need all kinds of housing in Seneca Falls. We need high-end apartments. We need a workforce apartment or workforce housing. And everybody's afraid of the word workforce or affordable housing. And they don't understand, okay? Affordable or workforce housing. I'm a mother and I have 2 kids and I work 50 hours a week at tops. Okay? I'm spending 80% of my income on rent. If I have housing available, I'm going to pay my rent based on my income. But I could live in this place, and based on my income, I'm going to pay the full shot. Okay, we need all kinds of housing.
Yeah.
So,
relationship with the Cayuga Nation. Some from the outside would say it's better than it has been in the past. What do you attribute that to, and where would you like to see that relationship go in the future with the town?
Well, I'm going to take credit for having it in a better space than we've ever been, okay? I have been meeting with the Cayuga Nation representatives for the last 3 years. I have met personally with Mr. Halftown, okay? We have a very good relationship. He initially doesn't trust Seneca Falls, and it's taken a long time to build up that relationship. I've said from forever, the Cayuga Nation is part of Seneca Falls, and Seneca Falls is part of the Cayuga Nation. The Cayuga Nation is going nowhere, okay? And I recognize Mr. Halftown as the federally recognized leader of the Cayuga Nation. And I've been working with Mr. Halftown, and we have a very good relationship at this point in time. And I only encouraged by what's going to happen in the future, and I think good things are going to happen that the people of Seneca Falls will be very happy. But if you put a new person in that situation, that relationship will take another 4 years to develop because they are not very trustworthy of the people in Seneca Falls. So it takes time. It takes time to build those relationships. And we've worked hand in hand with them. It was me who got the Cayuga Nation to participate in the Ludovico Trail, okay? It happened through my discussions with the Cayuga Nation.
Fire, EMS, and policing, 3 challenging services to maintain, whether you have volunteers, paid, or combination of both. Let's start with EMS because that seems to be the most urgent for not just Seneca Falls, but all of Seneca County. The financial condition of North Seneca seems to be such that the towns are going to have to help out here to keep them afloat and keep them running. How important is that? And what do you think that relationship is going to have to look like on an annual basis to maintain them well into the future, not just get by 1 year?
Excuse me. It's critical, okay? So the town of Seneca Falls has $177,000 in our budget to support North Seneca Ambulance, okay? The other towns that have been asked to support is Varick, Fayette, Junius, and Tyre, and they're all making their financial commitment. It's based on, obviously, the population and number of users. Seneca Falls is the biggest user of the service, okay? One of the things my opponent has failed to recognize is that if you're the town supervisor of Seneca Falls, you're also a county board supervisor, okay? So you wear 2 hats. And we are working at the county level to create a county-wide EMS service. And it'll be funded by the county. And so everybody in the county, south end, north end, will have adequate emergency services. And that's 1 budget year away. That'll happen in 2024.
You feel like that's imminent, that is a definite going to happen?
The majority of the board of supervisors are in favor of that.
Is that the better route to go rather than
I think that's the way better route to go. I think it's better managed, better controlled, it's centrally located, and it's way better way to do it.
Policing, obviously, Seneca Falls has a police department. Recruiting is a big challenge for law enforcement agencies across the board. When you think about maintaining the level of police service that residents, taxpayers have become accustomed to, what needs to happen in the next 4 years to keep that rolling in the direction it's going?
I'm a strong supporter of our police department. They do a great job that people don't realize. The biggest complaint I get from people is, why is there 4 cars sitting in the parking lot? Why do we need 8 police cars? And then you explain to them You can't run a car 24/7. So people fail to remember that we provide police service 24 days or 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Okay. So that takes a lot of manpower and woman power. We, with the former chief and the lieutenant, Mr. Snyder, who's now the chief, we started a recruitment program. And we were successful. We picked up a very great candidate who's been working now with us for the last 4 months. So we continue that program, and we have new recruits in the police academy. So I feel confident our police force is going to be manned at full strength. Seneca Falls Fire Department, again, some people don't realize the fire department's not part of the town of Seneca Falls. We collect their taxes for them, their fees, but they're a separate entity. I think they're financially well off, but it's always a struggle to get more volunteers. So one of the things that I've done is introduce legislation that hopefully will be completed by December, trying to provide some incentive for more volunteers. They would get a 10% discount on their property taxes. We've done it at the county level already, and hopefully we'll finish it off in Seneca Falls. So it'll be a little bit of incentive, a little bit of help. So.
Last question that kind of encompasses all the things we've been talking about. Aging population. Some of the reporting we've seen in the last couple of months suggests a 40% increase in 65 plus population by 2040
Guilty as charged
in this region, while the other younger age groups are expected to decline between 7 and 14%. When you think about a tax base for Seneca Falls, does that concern you at all? And does that create a little more urgency with some of these issues that the town needs to act now and not delay?
Yeah. There's the biggest, I still think that when young people are looking for a place to live, they're looking at the education system, which I think we have a great one. And I think the one thing that people don't understand, there's not a lot of housing available. So it goes back to housing. There's not a lot of nice houses on the market. And that's why I think if we provide some people like me to get it into a nice apartment, houses open up. It is a concern, and we need to try to get as many people involved in Seneca Falls as we possibly can and try to keep our young people here. It's not easy. Even if they work in, Canandaigua, Syracuse, Rochester, young people don't mind commuting 45 minutes. You commute how long every day, right?
An hour. Yep.
So, again, it's just a matter of providing some opportunities for them. And then I think it all starts with housing. The school district is a good school district, and it's just providing some housing.
Last question for real. What's your pitch to voters on Election Day?
My pitch to voters is I'm the most experienced leader. I have qualified, proven record. If I'm elected, there'll be no difference between December 31st, 2023 versus January 2nd, 2024. It'll be a smooth transition. All the things that I've been working on will carry through. As I said earlier in the interview, there's a big learning curve, okay? And whoever comes into office, it's going to take a good year to get acclimated to the whole thing. That won't happen if I'm elected. I've done very, very much for the town of Seneca Falls. I've worked very hard. My whole goal running 4 years ago was to give back to my community. I was born and raised here, and I've done that. Okay, whatever happens Tuesday, I'll still be able to put my head on the pillow, sleep. I'll be able to shave in the morning. That's my standard, and hopefully the people of Seneca Falls understand what I've done and what I want to continue to do.
Mike, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of FLX Today. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one, check out the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the FingerLakes1.com YouTube channel. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.